Homework 7, Combinations of Functions, video number 7. Let's talk about how to actually add and subtract two functions. I've got a couple of examples up here. For each pair of functions, find f plus g of x, f minus g of x, and their domains. Now don't overthink this. F plus g of x means exactly what it sounds like. Add the two functions together. Same thing for f minus g of x. So let's take a look at the first example. F of x equals 3x squared plus 7x minus 3, and g of x equals x squared minus 4x minus 4. To find the sum of two functions, f plus g of x, you literally write the first function plus the second function and see what happens. So in this case, our first function is 3x squared plus 7x minus 3, and we're going to add to that the second function, x squared minus 4x minus 4. In this case, now all we have to do is combine like terms. We have a pair of x squareds. Here's 3 of them. Here's one more of them for a total of 4 x squareds. We have a pair of x terms. Here's positive 7 of them. Here's negative 4 of them. Combined, you get positive 3 x's. And we have two constant terms. Negative 3 and negative 4 make negative 7. So there's our new function. We added the two functions and created a new one. Let's go ahead and find its domain. Wait a second, this is just a polynomial function. It has no domain issues, which means its domain is everything from negative infinity to infinity. I'm just going to step behind the camera for a second to make sure I'm not about to get into territory that you can't see on the video. I think we're okay. All right, so how do we find the difference in two functions? Well, pretty much the exact same way. To find f minus g of x, we just do f of x minus g of x. But here's where you have to be careful. I'm about to subtract a whole function. So when the time is right, I will need to distribute that negative across the entire function. The first function is still 3x squared plus 7x minus 3. And now we're going to subtract the entire second function, so we need to put it in parentheses. And inside those parentheses, x squared minus 4x minus 4. The most common mistake people will make when subtracting two functions is to forget that this minus sign belongs to the entire second function and therefore will get distributed. The first function doesn't do anything yet. It's still 3x squared plus 7x minus 3. But when we distribute the minus sign, the second function becomes negative x squared plus 4x and plus 4. And now we just have to combine like terms. 3x squared minus x squared is 2x squared. Positive 7x and positive 4x is positive 11x. Negative 3 plus 4 is positive 1. So when we subtract them, we get 2x squared plus 11x plus 1. And guess what its domain is? That's right. It's still negative infinity to infinity because this is still a polynomial. So adding and subtracting when it comes to polynomial functions is just combining like terms and watching your signs. But what happens when you have something that's not necessarily a polynomial function, such as in example B? The first function is a polynomial, f of x equals 5 plus x, but the second one is not. It's a radical function, and so that's going to have domain issues. So how do you add and subtract these? Well, sort of the same way we did the other one. To find f plus g of x, you literally just write f of x plus g of x. In this case, f of x is equal to 5 plus x, plus g of x is just the square root of x. After you've written the sum of the two functions, you look for any like terms to combine. I don't have any. I can't combine these x's. One is in a square root, the other one is not. And of course 5 doesn't have any x's at all. So sometimes when you try to add two functions, the best you can do is write your intentions. I tried to add them and this is all I could do. But what about its domain? This is not a polynomial function. It has a square root. We need to make sure that we don't square root negatives. For this domain, you would force the radicand to be greater than or equal to 0. The radicand is just x. There's nothing to solve there. It's already solved. My domain is bracket 0, comma infinity, parentheses. And pretty much the same thing for the subtraction problem. In fact, the only difference in this one between the addition problem and the subtraction problem is the minus in the middle. To find f minus g of x, we just write f of x minus g of x. F of x is still 5 plus x. Here's the minus. I don't need parentheses on the second function because the second function only has one term. It's only when that second function has multiple terms where you need parentheses. So I can just write the square root of x. And just like before, there are still no like terms. That's as good as I can do. And just like before, it has the exact same domain issues. And what you'll notice on these addition and subtraction problems that occur in pairs, their domains will always match. So adding and subtracting is pretty straightforward. Follow the rules that you already know. Combine like terms. Watch your signs. Heaven forbid we add fractions and have to get a common denominator. And don't combine unlike terms.